I died in the silence of my own garage. My name is Mark Rivera. I'm 44 years old, and for most of my life I've been a mechanic. I run a small garage off Route 66 in Elk City, Oklahoma. Grease on my hands, the smell of oil, the hum of an old compressor. This has been my world for decades. People know me as the guy who can fix an engine with almost no parts, the guy who never closes his shop early. But behind that reputation, I was a man running on fumes. I never cared much for religion. My grandma Rosa, she was the church lady in our family. She prayed over everything, over meals, over storms, even over broken cars. When I was a kid, she'd press her wrinkled hand on my shoulder and whisper, "Mijo, God has plans for you." I'd roll my eyes and pretend not to hear. As I got older, I learned how to silence those words. By the time I inherited the garage after my dad passed, faith felt like a fairy tale for people who couldn't handle reality. Reality for me was bills stacked on the counter, engines torn apart across 2 bays, customers demanding their cars yesterday. My marriage didn't survive the pressure. Lena, my ex-wife, said I loved the shop more than I loved her. Maybe she was right. We divorced 5 years ago and she took our son Ethan. I told myself I was okay with weekend visits, but truth was, every time he left, the silence of that garage felt heavier. I worked harder, stayed later, took every repair job that came through the door. It wasn't passion anymore. It was survival. There were nights I'd sit on a stool covered in grease, staring at the same bolt for 10 minutes because I couldn't think straight. I told myself I was strong, tough, practical, but inside I was tired, empty. Ethan's 15 now. He doesn't say much when he's around me, and honestly, I don't blame him. I missed too many games, too many birthdays, too many moments that mattered. I thought I was building a future for him, keeping the shop alive, paying for what he needed. But I see now I was building walls instead. Sometimes when I'd lock up the shop at night, I'd remember Grandma Rosa humming hymns while cooking beans on the stove. Her words would echo in my head. God hasn't forgotten you. I'd laugh under my breath. If God hadn't forgotten me, why did everything feel like a constant uphill climb? Why was I drowning in debt, in guilt, in broken relationships? I didn't realize it back then, but my heart had turned to stone. Not out of anger, not out of rebellion, just weariness. I thought faith was weakness, and I thought I was being strong. But the truth is I was just numb. I had no idea that numbness was about to shatter. That the silence of my garage, the same silence I lived with every night, would soon become the place where everything changed. It was late on a cold night. The kind of night when the wind cuts through your jacket and the streets of Elk City feel abandoned. I had stayed at the garage after closing, telling myself I just needed 5 more minutes to test an engine. 5 minutes always turned into an hour. The shop smelled like exhaust, but I was used to it. I rolled up the doors only halfway because the air outside was freezing. I thought it would be enough. The old Chevy idled on the lift, rattling like it always did. I leaned against the hood, arms crossed, listening to the uneven rhythm. My chest felt tight, but I ignored it. Mechanics ignore a lot. Pain, hunger, exhaustion. We just keep working. The compressor kicked on in the background. The lights flickered. My eyes burned from the fumes, but I didn't stop. I told myself just another minute, then I'll go home. I remember looking at the clock. Past midnight. Ethan was probably asleep, and I'd promised I'd call him earlier. Another promise broken. The tightness in my chest grew sharper, like someone pressing a heavy wrench against my ribs. My head spun. I tried to push away from the car, but my legs didn't respond the way I expected. The shop floor tilted under me. My hand slipped on the hood and I staggered toward the workbench. Tools clattered to the ground. I could hear the engine still running, steady and mindless, while my own body betrayed me. My breath shortened. My knees buckled. The last sound I remember clearly was the hiss of air and the faint echo of the compressor shutting off. Then silence. The world dimmed. Colors drained. The shop lights blurred into streaks. My heart pounded once, twice. Then nothing. No rhythm, no pulse. I collapsed on the floor, surrounded by wrenches and rags. Alone. At least that's what I thought. I didn't know Ethan had planned to stop by the garage. He came looking for a socket wrench he needed for his bike. He wasn't supposed to be there, but that night he was. He found me crumpled on the ground, motionless. He shouted my name, shook me, panicked. My eyes were open, but there was no one inside. He dialed 911 with trembling hands, begging for someone to hurry. My son, the boy I had failed so many times, was the one who found me dead. I didn't hear the sirens. I didn't hear the paramedics rush in. My body was still in that garage, but I was already gone. I didn't realize the moment my body quit. 1 second I was on the floor of the garage, and the next I was standing or floating above it. I looked down and saw myself sprawled out, arms twisted awkwardly, face pale, chest still. The Chevy still rumbled on the lift, its headlights cutting across the concrete like nothing had happened. It felt unreal, like watching someone else. But it was me. My body was just a shell, lifeless and heavy, while I hovered weightless above the scene. I didn't panic. The fear I expected never came. Instead, there was a strange calm. The first sound that hit me wasn't noise, it was silence. Not the kind of silence that makes you uneasy, but something alive, deep, almost breathing. The buzzing of lights, the echo of the compressor, even Ethan's cries, all of it faded. I saw Ethan kneeling beside me, shaking my shoulders, his face wet with tears. I wanted to reach for him, to tell him I was okay, but no sound came from me. I wasn't in that body anymore. Paramedics rushed through the garage doors. I recognized the way they moved, the urgency, the rhythm. I had seen it before when I used to watch rescue crews on the highway. Now it was me on the ground, the man they fought to bring back. The scene pulled at me, but something stronger tugged from above. A glow gathered in the distance, not harsh, not blinding, but soft, warm, inviting. It wasn't like any light I had ever seen. It felt alive. As I drifted upward, memories began to flicker like slides in an old projector. Moments I hadn't thought about in years. Me holding Ethan as a baby, grease still on my hands. The night I yelled at Lena, the time I skipped Ethan's first game. Each memory cut like glass, yet carried a strange clarity. In the middle of those flashes, I saw Grandma Rosa, not standing before me, but in memory. Her bent over the stove, singing hymns in Spanish, whispering prayers with her cracked Bible open. I had laughed at her, rolled my eyes, said faith was for weak people. Yet here in this silence, her words returned with force. Mijo, God will never let you go. I was being pulled higher. The garage shrank beneath me. Ethan's voice faded. The pain in my chest was gone. For the first time in decades, I wasn't tired. I wasn't broken. I was being carried towards something greater, something I couldn't explain. The silence wasn't empty. It was leading me somewhere. The light drew closer, and with it came a presence I can't compare to anything on this earth. It wasn't just bright. It was personal. It knew me. Not the public version of me. The real me. The tired, stubborn, small me. I didn't see a throne. I didn't see thunder or judgment. I saw a kindness that made my defenses fall apart. The presence stepped forward like the sun stepping over the horizon, and I knew this was Jesus. There were no speeches, no courtroom, only truth that moved like warm water through cold hands. In that truth, nothing could hide. My excuses, my sarcasm, the walls I built, they cracked like old paint. I expected shame to flood me. It didn't. What flooded me was love. Heavy, endless, undeserved love. Lord, I said, though my mouth didn't move. The word rose from someplace deeper than breath. He looked at me. Or maybe he was looking through me. I felt seen back to childhood, back to the little boy who fixed bikes while Grandma Rosa prayed on the porch. I felt seen past the man who slammed doors and missed games and chose work over dinner. I braced for a list of failures. Instead, I felt an invitation. Behind him, someone laughed softly. I knew that laugh. I turned and there she was, Grandma Rosa, steady as ever. She didn't look old. She looked complete, whole. She didn't lecture me. She reached out her hands and somehow I was that boy again. The one who smelled tortillas and soap and heard Spanish hymns floating in a tiny house that felt bigger than the world. Mijo, she said, and the word rang like a bell. Look who loved you all along. Jesus didn't list my sins. He showed me scenes, simple and blazing with meaning. My garage on a Tuesday night. I was replacing a timing belt for a single mom who couldn't afford the full price. I told myself I gave the discount because I needed her business. But in that light, I saw the truth. Mercy was moving in my hands. He had been there. I saw the day a customer bowed his head in the waiting area and whispered, Lord, help Mark figure this out. I rolled my eyes then, but in the light I saw it differently. I saw a neighbor leave a casserole at my door after the divorce. I told myself it was pity. In the light, it was an arrow of love shot from a quiet, faithful heart straight into my starving one. I had eaten and mocked the gesture in the same breath. Still, he used it. You confused hardness with protection, the truth said. You called numbness strength. You called fear wisdom. But I was not far from you. I was in the ordinary. My chest ached with a sweet pain. I wanted to apologize for everything at once, for the anger, for the silence, for Ethan waiting on bleachers that emptied under floodlights while his father stayed with a half-assembled engine. Words piled up in me and collapsed. Jesus stepped closer. The light didn't push me down. It lifted me up. I felt clean, like someone had washed the smoke out of my lungs. He showed me Ethan as a toddler, Lena, and Grandma Rosa praying. None of it was used to crush me. Every memory was wrapped in mercy. Why me, I thought. Why love me? The answer wasn't a sentence. It was a presence. It was his heart, steady and relentless, pulsing with a love that did not begin when I behaved and did not end when I failed. He turned my face toward a road I couldn't see before. On that road were people I knew and people I didn't, lives waiting for words I hadn't spoken yet. Teach me, I said, the words silent and loud all at once. He did, simply. Not theology, not debate. He taught me how to listen. He taught me how to stay. He taught me that holiness hides in small things done with great love. Wiping a counter, showing up on time, telling the truth about a repair, calling your son back even when you're afraid he won't answer. Grandma Rosa smiled. You thought God was a storm. He came as a whisper, and I knew then. The silence that haunted me hadn't been empty. It had been waiting. Patient, steady, full of a person I had refused to see. I wanted to never leave that light. I wanted to lean into it until everything false fell off me and only love remained. But even as that desire swelled, another dawned just beyond it, a choice I had not expected. The pull toward the ones on that road grew stronger. The light asked a question without words. The silence shifted, and suddenly I was standing inside a stream of memories. Not just images, but living moments, each one wrapped in a weight I'd never noticed before. The first scene hit me like a hammer. I was back in the garage on a hot summer day. A trucker had dropped his wallet under the counter. I picked it up, saw the bills inside. I remember thinking, he'll never notice if one's missing. But I handed it all back. He gripped my hand so tight it hurt. In this light, I saw what I had missed back then. He had a son in the hospital, and that money was for medicine. A choice I almost dismissed had been life or death for someone I didn't even know. The next moment burned. I saw myself yelling at the customer, a young kid with an old car that barely ran. He couldn't pay what I demanded. I turned him away, mocking him under my breath. In the light, I saw him walking home that night, head bowed, praying for strength. My cruelty had pressed him deeper into despair. That memory cut like a blade. Yet even there, I felt Jesus standing beside me, not to condemn, but to let me see clearly. Scene after scene poured through me. Times I showed mercy without even meaning to. Times I chose selfishness and hurt people I never thought about again. Every word, every look, every silence mattered. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was forgotten. Then I saw Ethan. Not once, but over and over. Him waiting at the ball field, glove in hand, searching the bleachers for a father who never came. Him sitting on the couch, homework spread out, glancing at the phone that never rang. Him hugging Lena after another broken promise, whispering, "It's okay, Mom," when it wasn't. The weight of it nearly crushed me. My son's eyes, full of hope and disappointment, pierced me deeper than any engine part or accident ever could. I wanted to run, but the light held me steady. Grandma Rosa's voice floated through the silence. Even here, God's mercy is greater. And then I saw something else. Small acts I had forgotten. Fixing a flat for free. Covering a part out of pocket. Buying Ethan a model car after a long shift. In the light, these weren't small. They were eternal seeds, moments of grace I didn't recognize but heaven had kept. I realized then, nothing is neutral. Every choice tilts toward love or toward harm. Every action ripples. My life wasn't just mine. It had been shaping others all along. The review didn't crush me. It broke me open. I saw my failures without excuse, but also my moments of kindness magnified beyond measure. God had been weaving even through my mess, redeeming even the scraps. I stood in that stream of memories, undone, yet strangely whole. My story wasn't random. It was known, seen, carried. The stream of memories faded, and I was left standing in the light again. Only now, it wasn't just about what I had done or failed to do. It was about what came next. Before me stretched a horizon I can't fully describe. Peace soaked everything. No pain, no confusion, no bills, no loneliness, just rest. For the first time in my life, I felt like I'd finally come home. I wanted to stay. But the light shifted and new faces appeared. Ethan, older, standing tall, his eyes full of purpose. Men I didn't know, sitting in a circle in my garage, coffee mugs in hand, talking, praying. A neighbor knocking on my door in tears. A stranger breaking down on Route 66. Their lives brushed against mine, waiting for words I hadn't spoken yet. I felt the pull. A mission, unspoken yet undeniable. My life wasn't finished. Grandma Rosa stepped closer. She touched my hands, her smile steady and fierce. "Mijo," she said, "now you know love. Now you know the one who never left. Go back, give it away." I shook my head, tears stung my eyes. "But I don't want to leave. I don't want to lose this." Her eyes softened. "You won't lose him. He will go with you." Then Jesus stepped forward again. No orders, no threats. Just presence. Just a question written in light. "Will you go?" I looked once more at Ethan. At the boy who had found me on the floor, crying out for help I couldn't give. At the man he was meant to become. The choice tore me in half. Stay in the place of perfect peace, or return to a broken world, a broken body, a broken life. But love is costly. Love goes back. "Yes," I whispered without lips. "Yes, I'll go." The light trembled, not with anger but with joy. The embrace of that presence held me one last time, burning mercy deep into my soul. Then it released me. I felt myself falling, not through space but through layers of silence. The peace thinned, replaced by heaviness. The warmth cooled. The air thickened. And then came the pain. A crushing weight slammed into my chest. My lungs screamed for air. My eyes shot open to blinding hospital lights. Sirens faded. Voices rose around me. Hands pressed against my ribs. Someone shouted, "He's back." I gasped, choking, my body foreign, heavy, fragile. The peace of heaven still echoed in me, but now wrapped in skin and bone again. I had returned. The hospital room pulsed with machines and fluorescent light. Every beep felt louder after the silence I had known. My chest ached, my throat burned, but I was here. I was breathing. Ethan stood in the doorway, unsure. His hair was messy, eyes red, hands shoved into his hoodie like he was bracing for bad news. I reached toward him with the same hands that had missed so much of his life. "Hey buddy," I said, voice rough. He didn't move at first. Then he came fast, like something broke open, and he wrapped his arms around me. I cried into his shoulder. I didn't try to be tough. Tough almost killed me. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "For the games, for the birthdays, for all of it." He nodded against my chest. "I just want you here, Dad." Lena came the next day. We were careful with each other, like walking on a greasy floor you don't want to slip on. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain. I told her the truth. I had been numb, and God woke me up. She searched my face for the old sarcasm and didn't find it. "I hope it lasts," she said, not mean, just tired. "Me too," I said. When I got home, the garage smelled the same. Oil, dust, rubber. But it didn't feel the same. The compressor kicked on. The lights flickered. I stood in the center bay and listened. The silence was still there, but it wasn't empty anymore. It carried a presence. I prayed out loud, clumsy and honest. "Jesus, I don't know how to do this. Teach me how to love." I changed small things first. I put a sign by the register, people before parts. I started closing on time. I called Ethan at lunch. I wrote a list of every promise I owed him and began paying them back one by one. A game, a burger, a fishing trip. On Sundays, we sat in the back row of Grandma Rosa's old church. The hymns sounded like home. I didn't raise my hands at first. I just stood there and let the words wash over me. I brought a photo of her and tucked it into my wallet. Sometimes I'd feel the picture's edge when I reached for a socket set, and it felt like she was praying again. Word got around town that something had changed in me. A few men started hanging around after closing. Guys who were tired, scared, sober, today but not sure about tomorrow. We brewed cheap coffee in a dented percolator and sat on overturned milk crates. We talked about temptation and rent and the ache that grows when you pretend you're fine. I told them what happened to me without trying to make it sound pretty. Some rolled their eyes. Some stared at the floor. Some asked me to pray. I did, stumbling, sincere. A kid came by one night, shaking, holding out a set of stolen plugs. "I don't want to be this guy," he said. We traded the plugs for a handshake and a promise. I hired him to sweep and taught him to change his first tire. He called me Mr. Rivera for a week, then Mark, then Sir when he messed up. I told him the gospel while we scrubbed grease out of concrete. Holiness hides in small things done with great love. Not every day felt holy. Some days I was short-tempered. Some days I wanted to crawl back into the old numbness. When I failed, I owned it. I apologized fast, I kept short accounts. I asked Jesus to keep my heart soft. He did. I visited Elena and didn't push. I fixed her taillight and didn't charge her. I told her I was praying for her and I meant it. We aren't back together. Maybe we never will be. But there is peace now. Ethan started helping at the shop after school. We talk with our hands full about torque specs and faith and why forgiveness feels like sanding rust. I'm learning to listen. He's learning I'm staying. Some nights after we lock up, we stand in the driveway and watch the last light melt off Route 66. He'll bump my shoulder and say, "Race you to the truck." I let him win. Sometimes, I still hear the question, "Will you go?" I answer it each morning when I turn the key and the garage groans awake. I answer it when a customer lies, when a part fails, when shame tries to tell me I'm the same old man. I am not the same. I carry heaven's quiet into the loud ordinary. I carry mercy into places I once filled with excuses. At the end of each day, I flip the sign to closed, kill the compressor, and stand still. I let the silence settle. I remember the hands that lifted me, the voice that didn't condemn me, the grandmother who prayed me through wasted years. I thank God for air in my lungs and grease on my hands. I ask Him to use both. If you're listening to this and you feel numb, I know that place. If you think faith is for weak people, I was certain of it. But I died in the silence of my own garage, and Jesus met me there. He wasn't far away. He was closer than my next breath. Value people over machines. Keep your promises. Ask for help. Forgive faster than you judge. And when the world goes quiet, don't be afraid. The silence isn't empty. Someone is calling your name. I died in the silence of my own garage. It wasn't the end. It was the beginning.